What are the major differences on both systems? The Linux system assumes that the user knows what they're doing. If we tell it to do a certain operation, the system will do it, if we're allowed to. It's worth remembering in case you try to delete your operating system, because you can do that too. It's very important that the Linux system recognizes character case. 4 names visible on the slide are 4 different files. Windows could see it as one file, and we would not be able to create another one. Any combination of lowercase and uppercase letters has to be identical to the ones used. Running the application requires entering the command exactly how it's stored in the system, adhering to case. Invoking system functions, file names rely on the case recognition, and you do well to remember it. Another thing is that there's no such thing as an illegal symbol in a file name. You cannot create a star file in Windows. In Linux you can, although you probably shouldn't. The only symbol you cannot use is /, which means the main system folder. You can use any file name imaginable in Linux. One should remember that it's a different operating system, so that it has a different file format. Running an exe under Linux won't succeed. Exe or MSI files are Windows applications, not Linux. You cannot run it directly. File extensions are not that important in Linux. If something's a movie file, it'll be played nonetheless, even if there's no extension or the extension is wrong. Of course, the system uses extensions given by the user, because that's faster. You only need one glance at a file name, and you know what it is. If the file is named with an extension unknown to the system, or no extension at all, the system will recognize the file format and run the appropriate application, which is used to handle such files. Privileges play a big part here. In the Windows system, the exe file is the executable file, because that's its extension. The file can have a JPEG extension. If it's set to an executable, it will be run by the system, and the system will try to execute instructions from the program. Such privileges to file access are important here. Hidden files and catalogs are ones beginning with a dot. In Windows' case, a hidden file or folder has the hidden attribute. In Linux's case, if the file name begins with a dot, it's a hidden file. This is the way most application configuration files are named. And they're housed in the home folder, in order not to clog the view and obstruct content, which has meaning for the user. As was mentioned, the system administrator, called root, has access to all files and folders, and can modify all system parameters. In the Windows system, the administrator has no access to the user's home folders. In Linux, root can do anything. You cannot forbid root to access some file or folder. Root has great possibilities. The Linux system does not have something like a drive letter. The Windows system accustomed us to the CDE, etc. drive letters. Each device, that is, a CD-ROM or a USB, is seen in the system as a drive letter. De facto, every partition on any drive is a drive letter. The Linux system has something different. We have a tree in which every partition is placed in a specific place. The structure begins with the root folder, defined as /. The whole structure has mounted partitions in some places, which means after entering a certain folder, we can see the contents of the whole drive or folder. The way in which it's done will be explained in detail in the practical part of the course, when we show how to navigate the system. The interesting thing is that executing the folder grants access to it. If the catalog is set to prohibiting executing, access to it will be restricted as well, preventing viewing its contents. As in Windows, the folder structure is set from above. Just like in Windows, the structure is C: users, Windows, program files, and so on. In Linux, the folder structure is set from the top down and should not be modified without a good cause, in case we don't know how to fix changes made to the system, because the system might just not work afterwards. It's important to remember that in Linux, everything is a file. Folders as well as files and devices are files. Everything is treated as a file. It might sound queer, but the philosophy behind the Linux system means that writing data onto a printer, reading from a scanner, camera, or any other device can be carried out exactly how a regular text file is handled. This makes application development easier. Applications can use any device because they can open any file, provided that they know the information structure, where to write or what to read. What's interesting, even kernel parameters can be controlled to an extent by writing the right data to the right files, which are then interpreted by the operating system and change things like processor speed or random access memory speed. As we mentioned earlier, files also contain the entire system and user configurations. There's no such thing as a registry, not one binary place that contains the operating system settings.